The reason why certain works of literature often get the film treatment is to make the characters jump off the page and deal with conflicts that can appeal to all sorts of people. What Francis Ford Coppola did with Apocalypse Now is not only document the characters, but highly realise the hellish environment of the Vietnam War. Its arduous production spanning nearly 3 years paid off, as Apocalypse Now is regarded as one of the best films ever made. The ultimate horror of this hypnotically strange trip is as close as a film has ever come to crystallising the reality of this harrowing time period.
This is the end, beautiful friend.
Heart of Darkness, written by Joseph Conrad, is a story of Marlowe's job as an ivory transporter down the Congo River. The ideas of violence and cruelty, sanity and insanity, along with moral corruption, are explored through the eyes of the main character. This inspired screenwriter John Milius to adapt Heart of Darkness and place it in the heart of the Vietnam jungle. Captain Willard acts as the narrator, observer and commentator in the film. The first-person voiceover expresses his most intimate thoughts and feelings, aspects of the self which cannot be revealed through typical action and dialogue.
The more I read and began to understand, the more I admired him.
It adds a dimension of subjective consciousness to Willard's character. This gives Coppola the ability to give expository dialogue while crafting a mysterious backstory for Colonel Kurtz. Most critics agree that the film is an important examination of America's military involvement in Vietnam and the potential darkness that lies within all human hearts. Coppola's intention was to create a broad, spectacular film of epic action-adventure scale, which however is rich in thematic and philosophical inquiry into the mythology of war and the human condition.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Coppola chronicles the characters in a journey, showing us the indoctrination of evil and the dehumanization of Captain Willard and his crew. While the images of many films are carved out of light, Apocalypse Now seems to have been carved from the shadows. Cinematographer Vittorio Storaro chose to capture an increasing level of darkness as the film progressed to signify the character's descent into madness. The motive of darkness conveys the idea that the crew is now totally beyond the comforting glow of civilization. The finale with General Kurtz and Willard solely consists of silhouettes accompanied by a haunting score portraying the essence of evil within both characters. With the persona of Kurtz, his hypocrisy is what makes him insane. On the other side, Lieutenant Kilgore is similarly over the top. He's enthralled by the idea to have a soundtrack to his air raids and make his soldiers go surfing in the middle of gunfire. Yet Kilgore, on one side of the wall, is deemed a hero, while Kurtz is on the other, seen as a deranged menace.
And after that, his ideas, methods, became unsound.
Coppola accentuates the visual and oral beauty of Apocalypse Now to effectively assault our senses. The use of fogs and pronounced shadows accurately portray the surreal and nightmarish journey, which I think adds to the already masterful visual literacy from Coppola. Although Coppola sets the tone of the film from the very beginning, it's the finale that immerses the audience into the harrowing reality of Kurtz's madness. Coppola provides a critical perspective on American interventionism in comparison to colonialism. The film debuted shortly after the end of the Vietnam War in 1979, meaning that the effects of war still loom large in the outlook of the 70s. The use of pop culture references helped to situate and give insight into the various social and cultural aspects of the time period, providing a relatively accurate representation of the zeitgeist. John Milius hones in on the post-war tension in the mid-70s to criticize the dehumanizing aspects a weathered soldier can bring to his surroundings. From the writer's perspective, his adaptation of Heart of Darkness needed to criticize USA's involvement in the war, meaning that he had to create characters that the audience can find inhumanely shocking.
Come on, hurry up, motherfucker! Move it! Come cook! Come cook, you too, come on. Keep your eyes open clean. I got you, Chief.
The redo version of the film, in my opinion, is more faithful to Heart of Darkness, as an extended scene shows the effects of colonization by the French. Willard and his crew visit a French rubber plantation and engage in debate with the plantation's owners, who wish to remain in Vietnam as they consider it to be the last remnants of France's past imperial glory. The contrast in appearance and personality of the American and French characters helps the viewer to critique which country, the US or France, has had an impact on Vietnam society. With the French trying to civilize and the US attempting to suppress, it's clear that Coppola aimed to highlight the effects of both nations, showing Willard's surprise of civility amidst the war-torn Vietnam. Kurtz's moral corruption is linked to his madness. He permits the evil within him to gain the upper hand. Kurtz's appalling moral corruption is a result not only of external forces such as isolation and loneliness imposed by the jungle, but also of forces that lie within all men and await the chance to emerge. Kurtz perhaps realizes the depth of his own moral corruption when, as he lays dying, he utters, "Horror." Horror. This quotation also serves as a reminder of the horrors Colonel Kurtz has produced independently of the US military machine. The savage nature of man is reached at the end of the journey, not upriver, but into his own soul. Coppola illustrates his moral ambiguity with light and dark imagery that often blends together. Colonel Kurtz states that,
Without feeling, without passion, without judgment, because it's judgment that defeats us.
Kurtz believes that moral judgment is out of place in war and serves only to prevent victory. With this quotation and its encompassing monologue, Kurtz explains to Willard why he himself gave into the temptations of the jungle, to deify himself amongst the tribe, and to practice behaviour devoid of moral constraints. Captain Willard's crew consists of experienced and inept soldiers, who are not given the full details of Kurtz's extraction. Coppola included the 17-year-old Mr. Clean to illustrate how America was clutching at straws to push troops into Vietnam, and to show whether the death of Mr. Clean, or Marines in general, were truly imperative in winning the war. The innocence of soldiers are portrayed in a more impactful fashion, with Lance's cheerful, hippie character quickly shattered through the journey. A young puppy he adopts is killed during a firefight. Lance has lost the only thing that has kept him happy throughout the conflict, and upon losing the dog, Lance no longer feels the warmth of a friend in a world of war.
Child! Child! Check out Clean! Captain, he's it! Clean's it! Where'd the dog go? Nine! Check out Clean! Where's the dog? We gotta go back and get the dog!
The puppy stood for Lance's humanity, but now it's lost. Kurtz's ideals are clearly immoral and corrupt. He is a man on the edge of civilization, a man free in mind and morals, a man who abandoned the Western philosophy, which itself has been revealed to be corrupt. The exploitation of the natives can be seen as Kurtz's white man persona being used to his full advantage. His limitless power drives his corrupted morality. Willard's entry to his compound overwhelms the viewer in this hidden yet disciplined society, complete with a sense of a community and working population. The enormity of Kurtz's work is what Coppola excellently portrays through the use of set design. The structures are built in the worship of Kurtz as a demigod, depicts corruption as a basis for his settlement. Apocalypse Now scrutinizes the psyche of the soldiers themselves, along with Colonel Kurtz's recognition as a god amongst men. The film was one of the first in a series of critical analyses of Vietnam, and has created a legacy of public critique and consciousness regarding the armed conflict and its motivations. Coppola may have gone to hell and back in that jungle, but it repaid him with something absolutely astonishing.
Because there's a conflict in every human heart between the rational and the irrational, between good and evil. And good does not always triumph. Every man has got a breaking point. You and I have them. Walt Kurtz has reached his. And very obviously, he has gone insane.